It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey everybody, it's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
And Les Webster.
Hello all.
How's everybody doing?
Doing well, thanks. And you?
I'm doing okay. Mikey?
Sure, I'm good.
You sure you're good?
I'm sure I'm good.
Sure. And don't call me Shirley.
Absolutely.
That's right. I hope everybody out there is doing well. So what's been going on in your side of the universe?
Well, I've still got that monster pile of trades that I'm catching up on.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one I've gotten into now is the latest Atomic Robo joint, which was entitled The Ring of Fire. Is volume 10, I believe, of the ever-expanding Atomic Robo saga. And this is the one where they do Pacific Rim, basically. They have all of the fun monsters that they're fighting, and they get to, well, first they get to find Robo's head, which has been in a box for like 70 years because he was flicked back in time to the Old West in Volume 9. If you hadn't read that, you should, because it's a really good one.
Spoiler.
Well, I mean, it does start off, the first issue of Volume 10 is them going to find Robo's head. But, yeah, and so they had, and it's just his head, so they have to rebuild his body, which is exciting given that they don't have any resources anymore because the government took over Tesladyne in an effort to fight off this kaiju problem that they seem to have developed. And so it gets fun from there, and let's just say that there are orbital Nazi satellites involved and lots of threats of nuclear war, and it's just Robo as usual, that sort of thing. Also, the other thing that I wanted to point out about Robo that is cool is that they are now publishing it as a webcomic in addition to the other stuff, and so good old atomicrobo.com, you can find their stuff. I forget how often it posts now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, I mean, they're posting stuff on the web. It's great.
The thing about Atomic Robo is that they will do a story arc, take some time off, and then do a new story arc, yet they'll show the continuity through the story, or each arc, which is great. And they do give a lot of thought into the next storyline. So I commend them on that. I think it's a great fun read. It's in all ages. And I'm surprised that more people haven't gone to doing the figure at cosplay at a convention.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. But yeah, not only is it all ages and very family friendly, it also, they take a definite historic bend. These guys know their history. They pay attention, and there's some historically realistic, if not accurate, and often they are accurate, stuff that they put in these books, and so they're doing their homework. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
We've talked about Robo before, but that's because Robo is badass, and everybody should read Robo.
Mike, you got a question on the webcomic. Now, is the webcomic just being put into print form, or are they separate stories?
Well, you see, I was going to get to that later.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Alrighty.
Foreshadow.
Alrighty. Okay. Les, what's been going on in your world?
I just finished up seeing the last patriotic movie at the local theater and was still enthralled. They showed Sergeant York with Gary Cooper, and it was still one of those movies that stands the test of time. It's a great story, and the humor is there as well as the thought process. You have to really get into the character as to him being a conscientious objector, but he's sent to war. So if someone gets a chance to find the DVD or something of the like, be sure to watch it. It's well worth the time.
Cool.
Yep, a little more history there for you. But anyway.
Mm-hmm. I took some time and pulled out the first volume of Fantastic Four omnibus, which is like the first 40 issues plus a annual or two, if I'm not mistaken, of the original Fantastic Four run of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And I know a lot of these by heart, but still it's cool to kind of go back and relive these stories. And the thing is a lot of them still really hold up well. Maybe not so much the treatment of Sue Storm, the Invisible Girl, but it's still kind of fun. It's still kind of fun to kind of go back and read them again.
You look at the list of people that were introduced in those books.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right off the bat, you get the Skrulls, you get Doom,
you get Namor, the Submariner, reintroduced.
Mm-hmm. You get the Watcher. You get the Inhumans. In that first 40 issues, you have the appearance, although it wasn't his first, but Daredevil comes into a 2-issue series, and it was such good stuff. You have phenomenal Kirby art, and when he does his scientific pages, where he uses the photograph for the background and twists and turns it whatever direction he wants, it's just greatness. It's so much fun to look at. And the stories were pretty solid.
Yep.
Well, it's cool in a way because you're looking at that. I mean, that's the history. Before that, there was no history. So essentially, that is the beginnings of building the continuity for a lot of Marvel in general and Fantastic Four specifically.
It's world building or universe building.
Absolutely.
The beginning of the Marvel universe. Yep.
Absolutely.
Because they did start off in their own comic at issue number 1, rather than Amazing Spider-Man appeared in a different comic. The Hulk appeared in a different. Iron Man, Thor. They did not start as their own titles. And this was a big thing for them to step forward and say, we're going to start with number 1 right here. They did go on and do other comics the same way, such as Daredevil, but it proved that it was a good thing for them, starting with the Fantastic Four. I think it gave them the confidence to continue with number 1s as origin stories.
And pretty cool of you, Mike, to tie in the whole history with everything else that was said so far.
What can I say? I got segues, man.
History intensive.
All right. Well, this is going to be a weird segue, but it kind of works since I was talking about Fantastic Four. This week's topic, actually, the idea came to me from a post from a blog that I follow called Bronze Age Babies, and we'll post a link in our show notes. So shout out to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought up the discussion of reveals and retcons. And the example they gave was a Marvel 2-in-1 issue, which, for those who are not familiar with that title, it was a book from 70s to early 80s, maybe 81 or so, that 99% of the time starred Ben Grimm, the Thing. It was a team-up book. It was usually putting him with another hero much along the lines that Spider-Man had one called Marvel Team Up. And in this particular discussion, they had mentioned that in this particular issue, which I don't remember the number off the top of my head, I'm sorry, it was mentioned that Ben Grimm was Jewish. And they were talking, okay, well, is this a retcon or is this a reveal? And I started thinking about it. I'm thinking, well, no, it's a reveal. Because a retcon would be something that we have been told is the truth at one time, and then at a later point of time, a writer or writers, whatever, change an element and say, well, what we were told before is not in fact true, or something along those lines. And obviously, someone's religion, I guess what we were talking about was assuming that Ben was Christian, but in fact he was Jewish, and I'm like, no, that's more of a reveal. So it led to some interesting discussion and some interesting examples being brought up. And Mike, Les, and I were kind of talking a little bit about this before we started recording. But I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor. Do you have a preference? Or something? Is retcons better or reveals better? Or what's your thoughts, guys?
I'm going to say that it depends on the situation. We had a reveal in Captain America Civil War that had everybody going. I don't remember this reveal being done in the comics. That doesn't mean much because I don't normally read the Captain America titles, things like that. So the reveal they gave there, I thought was kind of a bait. I think it was one of those that it just made people want to choose a side. Did they want to go with Iron Man or with Captain America? There are some retcons that are useful. Some are absurd. We were discussing before topic that the retcon for Batman and Joe Chill as the killer of the Wayne parents. Bruce's parents was changed several times. It was retconned to a different person. It was retconned back several times. And when you're going back and forth, that doesn't really sit well, or it doesn't sit well with me. And I would suspect that a lot of readers are not really happy when they have to revise their thought process to get something into place that they don't believe is proper. Hopefully they'll slow down on them.
Well, you mentioned the Wayne murders, and something just popped in my mind, which was another retcon. So it's not just the murderer, but and Les will back me up on this. In the original origin stories, both parents were shot dead, but in the 50s, it was deemed too horrific. So Thomas was shown murdered, and then Martha had a heart attack. So both still died, but not both of them were murdered.
Oh, you gotta love the 50s, don't you?
Well, this was the time of Wortham and seduction of the innocent. So,
yeah. And
then obviously it was changed. It's been changed back, but that's a major retcon.
Yeah. Actually, the question that Les made pop into my head, whether he did so telepathically or not, we won't go into that.
Okay.
Was have they ever retconned the death of the Waynes out entirely? I mean, I'm pretty sure they've done like what if scenarios here and there, but have they ever really taken it out?
Not that I know. Removing it from the storyline?
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember it either. That's why I'm asking.
I don't recall that at all. No.
That would break things pretty badly, I would think. So I wouldn't have thought so, but hey, that, they've broken things pretty badly before with retcons. And just to be pedantic, just in case there's somebody listening that doesn't know what the hell we're talking about, retcon is a kind of a portmanteau word which combines, the full phrase is retroactive continuity. And so that's kind of the idea is that is changing something in the past that really changes something in the past, which is why you get the distinction with a reveal, which is just telling us something that we didn't necessarily know, which may affect the way, it can still affect the way you see it, but it's not actually changing anything. It's just adding information.
Then I have a question as to Spider-Man and the existence of his parents. Is that a retcon? Is that a reveal?
In what way are you talking about his parents?
Was it under the clone storyline that it was brought forward that both of his parents were still alive and were agents or something like that?
I think I know the storyline you're talking about. I did not read that. I'm thinking that they may have not actually been the real parents. That they could have been possibly clones or something else. Regarding Spidey's Peter Parker's parents, there.
Say that 5 times real fast.
Yeah, really. There was a reveal a long time ago that they were in fact agents and that they were murdered by the Red Skull. Now, don't know if that's still in the continuity or not. Who knows? But here's another perfect example of a retcon.
Yeah, I think the question becomes if it's what is it? Was it actually in the continuity that those were his parents, or was it just bullshit that they ended up passing off and saying, oh yeah, he thinks they're his parents, but they weren't really his parents because they were clones or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the distinction between a retcon and a reveal.
Yeah. But bringing up Spider-Man, there's a perfect retcon now in the creation of Silk, the superheroine who has spider powers, because we found out through the original Sin event, this was a couple of years ago, that she was bitten by the same spider that bit Peter.
That sounds like a retcon.
That sounds like a retcon to me.
Well, I don't know. What happened to the spider that bit Peter?
It supposedly died in the original story. When he was first bitten in Amazing Fantasy 14?
14 or 15, something like that, yeah.
I believe that the spider died right there on the spot. It was like its last chance at getting back at somebody. It was a revenge tale at that time.
For the spider, it was anyway. And so, technically, for Silk to have been bitten by that spider, then yes, you're retconning the spider's story, and you're bringing it back to life, or you're saying that it didn't die when it supposedly did.
Well, and
unless there was a Lazarus pit involved or something, who knows?
Oh Lord.
Oh wait, crossing the streams, can't do that.
Crossing the streams, yeah. Well, I guess it could be a reveal. Since I have not read that story, yeah, I was always under the impression that the spider had died after it bit Peter, but yeah, who knows? Who knows that he wasn't bitten second? I don't know.
Maybe it could drag itself across the floor, crawl up on her ankle, and give her a bite.
Yeah.
But it was a radioactive spider. That's why it was dying.
I don't know. The Hulk is radioactive and he doesn't die.
No, he was gamma rayed.
It's radiation. It's a ray. Gamma ray radiation. That's where that comes from.
Radiation is the emission of rays.
Yes.
He did not get hit by a ray. He get hit by a bomb.
By a what?
He was hit by a gamma bomb.
Okay.
not a gamma ray bomb.
Really?
That's what they said in his origin.
That's the direction you're going to take this?
This is a nice ravine I'm driving in, so don't bother.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, hey, you're having fun in that ravine. It's cool.
Okay. Trying to compose myself now.
What other fun retcons we got out there?
Woohoo!
Okay, I have one coming up.
Sweet.
Marvel now is doing a storyline called The Clone Conspiracy. I thought that was all done, but it sounds like they're going to bring it back for a new storyline in a Spider-Man title, and they are putting some villain up front as being the person that caused it all. So, to me, that's a retcon.
Yeah, it's the Jackal who was involved with with all the clones back in the 70s and then the whole clone saga in the 90s. So, I mean, he's involved with clones. So, I mean, there's a possibility that they killed off the clone and not the real guy, or we're dealing with the clone of the original villain.
See, clones annoy me just as much as time travel does. Because you get shit like that, and it makes me crazy. I mean, because it's just meaningless. Just like, oh, let's just drag this out a little more. Hey, it sold books last time. We'll do it again.
Mike, I thought your favorite song was "Send in the Clones."
Yuck. I actually have always kind of been slightly partial to Weird Al's I Think I'm a Clone Now, but that's for different reasons.
Yeah. Through this whole process of talking about the clones, why am I thinking about the ending of The Nude Bomb, the Maxwell Smart movie from the 80s?
I don't know, but there's probably medication for that.
Yeah, I need. Does anybody else remember that?
I recommend you seek it out. Yes,
I do remember it, but
as do I.
Where they kept going through the cloning machines and making more of the villains, and then Maxwell Smart battling each other. Oh God. Well, you talk about the Clone Saga selling a lot of books, but it's not particularly fondly remembered. So it's like why? So why go? Well, they're going back over because they can. So
it's right. It's just like any other reboot. It's because somebody somewhere along the line thinks they can do it better.
Exactly.
So what other retcons or reveals? I mentioned one earlier. It was a major one. The death of Phoenix, or the first one. We believed it was Jean Grey who basically gave up and sacrificed herself to save the X-Men and everybody else. And several years later, we find out that no, Jean Grey was never the Phoenix. That she was in a cocoon in Hudson Bay, where the Phoenix Force had taken Jean Grey's form and had been running around with the X-Men until it basically lost it for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. That was a big one, and a lot of people weren't happy about that one, as I recall.
Yeah. The thing is they brought her back, and then at some point later, she gained the Phoenix powers. And I'm like, okay, well,
what was the point of that?
Yeah, what's going on here? And of course, they've killed her off again. So it's just, oh man, that's turned into a mess.
That one was fun because they never gave us any reason to believe that it wasn't Jean. Ever.
Well, probably because they wrote it as it was Jean, so.
Yeah, they came up with the idea later. Oh, hey, wait, we can bring her back to life.
So, would you take that as a retcon and a reveal, or one of those?
I think it's a retcon.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, like I said, I don't think we don't have any reason to believe that they were planning that. And even if we did, it's still a retcon, pretty much. The way, especially, I mean, a lot of it is hinged on the way they did it, I think.
Earlier, we were talking about Jason Todd. He died in Death in the Family. and yet he was
Spoilers.
resurrected. I'm sorry?
Spoilers.
Yeah. From what, 1980 what?
Yeah, pretty much.
And that was the funny one because it was voted on by the
fans.
readers
Yeah, the fan.
Yep.
Yeah.
as to whether or not he should die. But he was a returning character in the storyline Hush. And then, of course, he went on to star in his own comic of Red Hood and the Outlaws.
Yeah,
So it was a retcon there.
For a dead guy, he does pretty well for himself.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as I mentioned in our pre-show conversations, there was another retcon for him. And before the original Crisis, he was essentially a Dick Grayson clone. He was a acrobatic, and he just lost his parents. The only difference was he had red hair, which they immediately dyed black, and all of a sudden he's essentially a Dick Grayson clone. And then after the Crisis, they changed his origin to be a kid living off the streets, not knowing who his parents are, and basically got a chip on his shoulder, and Batman took him in thinking I can improve him, make him better, and channel his anger and all that. And yeah, we saw how that worked out.
Yeah, but see, if there's any such thing as a good retcon, that's probably it.
Because
you're taking basically a non-story and giving it a backstory.
Yeah.
So I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, I'm not complaining about that one. I mean because it was essentially a rip-off, and then they actually turned him into a more interesting character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, until death in the family.
Spoiler. Just kidding.
I'm trying to think of some reveals. Some things that...
Reveals happen all the time, though. That's the...
Yeah.
They're not the... They're the ones that are... Retcons are a lot more obvious. Reveals are just... I mean, you reveal stuff in a story. That's just the way it works. So
and that's probably why we can't come up with some really, really good ones. I remember... Well, I just thought of one. Right after... going back to Marvel and going back to Spider-Man, right after he got rid of the black suit, which he found out was actually an alien being,
mm-hmm.
he had a conversation with Mary Jane, and she revealed that he'd known all this time that he and Spider-Man were the same person. That's a pretty big reveal. And it was kind of shocking because the next issue kind of went over her life story and then all that. But I don't consider that a retcon. That's just a reveal, a shocking reveal.
It's every writer's hope to make a reveal shocking or at least noteworthy.
Right.
Because that's what they want. I mean, that's telling a good story because a good story is rooted in some form of conflict, and I mean the conflict can be internal, but there's something. Somebody has to gain something for there to be a good story, and in order for that to happen, there has to be some sort of reveal to somebody, even if it's just to the audience.
When I look at another title for a reveal or retcon, when DC restarted Swamp Thing under its own title, that was with Vertigo, they redid the origin story to not include Alec Holland as Swamp Thing. In the original, it was Holland that fell into the swamp, and he was burning from various chemicals and fire. As he dove into the swamp, he emerged as Swamp Thing. Now then they took that, or a portion of that, and cast it away and said that maybe it's his mind in control of the creature, not that he was the major part of the creature to begin with. Now, there, to me, you have a retcon, obviously. Do you consider the telling of Alec not being the Swamp Thing a reveal then, or just part of the retcon?
Given that you're basically changing an origin story, yeah, there's definitely retcon there. Whether it has to be one or the other, I'm not so sure. It depends on how you're looking at it, because clearly they're going to have to reveal part of, that's the story, and they're going to have to reveal that. I guess technically they don't have to. So, yeah, in that sense, it is a reveal as well.
Yeah.
But it's changing the story enough that it's definitely some degree of retcon.
Oh, I agree it is a retcon. Yeah, it's total retcon, and it's not a reveal. It is totally a retcon.
Right. And I think technically they're all reveals in some form or other. It's just a matter of whether you're actively going back and changing continuity.
Okay.
Thomas, when you brought up Jason Todd prior to the crisis, the crisis was a retcon in itself.
That's true.
It gave a lot of new origins to various characters, as well as doing away with some of the more beloved characters themselves.
It's funny how often they do that in those big events, isn't it?
Well, in that one, of course, you had Barry Allen and you had Supergirl both dying. And Supergirl ended up with a retcon or a new character, I guess. It's a totally new story of an alien form that took the position of Supergirl, and she was being directed by Lex Luthor.
Then there was the whole angel with the flaming wings, too.
Yes.
They did a lot to her. Wow.
Well, and we're getting ready to see whether they're going to do a big retcon for the TV series, since they're moving it to the CW.
That's true.
They could just go, oh yeah, they're in the same continuity now. They may not, but they could. And that would be a pretty big retcon if they did.
In looking at the TV series, I do not remember her having a sister when she was adopted. She was taken in by, was it the Lees? Or was that just her name when she went to the orphanage? She was Linda Lee.
Well, where does Danvers come from?
That's what I'm not sure of either. Unless the Danvers were the ones that adopted her. Superman may have taken her to the orphanage and say, this is Linda Lee. And they may have picked her up and she became Linda Lee Danvers. But right there, they've changed that on television because it's now Kara instead of Linda.
Yeah, that kind of bugs me a little bit.
It did me at first because, of course, LL, once again, was within the Superman listing, the Superman mythos of whether it be female or a villain. LL was around a lot.
Yep, it's a Lulu.
Oh, jeez. Little Lulu?
Yeah, I guess you can go there.
Is it a Lulu or is it a Lilu?
Depends where she works, I guess.
Woo.
Could be Leela.
And on that note, maybe we should end this and go on to weekly picks. Is there anything else we want to mention before we move on?
So much for that pop culture whirlwind.
Yeah.
No, I don't think. I think we've totally solved this one. Sure.
Yeah.
Completely. There
you go. Go us.
Mark it in the books.
Yes. Les?
I was just thinking that maybe Lilo with Stitch. But we'll move on.
He had to squeeze that.
Yeah.
That's not a stretch.
And on that, I'm sorry?
That's not a stretch at all.
No. And on that note, we will be right back with our weekly fix. And we're back, and it's time for weekly picks, and leading off is Les.
My first pick tonight is a new story from Image called Black Monday Murders. This is written by Jonathan Hickman, art by Tom Coker. In this universe, or on this earth, schools of magic are the clandestine cartels, and they control all of society. But in this group also, or in this setting, there's a secret world where vampire oligarchs, black popes, enchanted American aristocrats, and hitmen from the International Monetary Fund work to keep all of us in our proper place. This to me sounds like something intriguing, and if they're going to toss a murder in there, I'm ready.
Cool. Sounds interesting.
Sounds like fun.
Yep. I am next, and my first choice is The Accused. It's a one-shot from Marvel Comics. It is a tie-in to Civil War II. I won't go into too much details about this because there's some spoilers, and I don't want to go into that, but all I'll say is Matt Murdock, Daredevil, is having to defend a superhero, who is on trial for a murder of another hero. So if you're following Civil War, I'm sure you're up to date on what's been going on. But Matt finds out there's a little bit more going on than he realized, and this might be kind of interesting. I mean, I'm not really following Civil War, but I'm aware of what's been going on, and this sounds like a kind of interesting one-shot.
Well, then, if nothing else, you don't see courtroom drama in your superhero comics very often, so
Not usually.
Could be interesting.
Yeah, that's what's kind of that's my hope. So we'll see. Mikey.
Alrighty. And I'm apparently going to be on an IDW kick this week.
Woo-hoo.
Because my first choice is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. This is number 4 is coming out this week. And if you have not been following this and you are not familiar with Hunter S. Thompson's book, holy crap, go check this thing out. Because it's actually a really good adaptation of it. Troy Little is doing a marvelous job portraying every possible aspect of this story. And he's clearly having a lot of fun with the drug trip stuff because, man, it's just a hoot all the way through. And again, if you're not familiar with this story, get familiar with this story in some form. I mean, there's obviously the book. There was the Terry Gilliam movie from the early 90s, I think. Oh, and honestly, this is just as good an adaptation as the movie. So definitely check this out.
What I've seen, it is pretty intriguing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Very good choice. Les?
My second choice is another number 1 issue, 3 O'Clock Club from Lion Forge Comics. Jordan B. Gorfinkel and Butch Hartman are the writers, with art by Araz Zadok. This one kind of fascinated me when I read the summation of it, because it says the only thing that can stop a portal opening to allow teenage anxieties of students at a high school, Mayflower High, to come to life is their 3 o'clock club. Monsters that are based on teenage angst are coming through the portal, and the group, the 3 o'clock club, is the only group that can stop them. This is going to be a kid-friendly adventure, so it really has my vote for a good ongoing series.
Sounds interesting.
Cool,
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen in the past. I've seen other series similar to that, and they're always fun. They're always fun.
Yep. For my second choice, I'm looking toward Action Lab Entertainment with Blue Hour #1, and the premise is a group of colonists leave Earth to try to build their own world, but apparently this is a world that has not only our yellow sun, but there's a blue sun too. And apparently things kind of go downhill once the yellow sun goes down, leaving the blue sun around. Sounds kind of, when I first thought about this, I kind of thought about Pitch Black, and there may be some of that quality, but it sounds kind of interesting, so I definitely want to check it out. It sounds like it may be kind of a sci-fi horror book, and hey, that's all right by me.
That's doable.
Mm-hmm.
Mikey.
Okay, so as promised earlier on in the show, this week gives us Atomic Robo and the Temple of Odd #1. This is, by all reports, a bit of a flashback in Robo's career, back to just before World War II. And given Robo's designation as an action scientist, things are likely to get interesting. As I said before, if you're not familiar with Robo, start somewhere. Pick this up. Just get into it, because it's just a lot of fun. I mean, there's just some historical references to it. There's always a lot of scientific references. Given that Robo's origin was that he was in this continuity, for lack of a better word, he was built by Nikola Tesla. If you're not familiar with Tesla, again, check this out. And the other reference that I made earlier was that the webcomic, this is issue 1 of the current story that is currently being published in the webcomic. So it's I think the last time I looked, I want to say I saw earlier today, the most recent one that was posted is part of what would effectively be issue 3 of this story. So if you want to read ahead, pick this up and want to read ahead, go check out the webcomic.
And once again, that's going to be fun. They teach you some history, plus there's action and a lot of humor in these. So it's well worth the time. Mm-hmm. And do yourself a favor and start with book 1, your first story arc, because it tells you so much and makes you really enjoy the characters to start. Even the dinosaur villain.
Dr. Dinosaur. Woo! And I actually sort of also, I'm going to jump the gun a bit here. I had my kind of honorable mention is that since the boys moved to IDW, IDW is reprinting and they've rebound and are reprinting the previous volumes. The latest one, the one that's coming out this week, is they're calling it the Hell and Lightning Collection. It collects volumes 7, 8, and 9. The titles for those stories are in order: The Flying She-Devils of the Pacific, The Savage Sword of Dr. Dinosaur, and The Knights of the Golden Circle. So, man, if that doesn't get you ready, those titles don't get you going, I don't know what will. But my point there being that they have all been reprinted now by IDW, so they should all be pretty easily available to pick them all up.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Good choices all around, as usual.
I believe so.
Anything else before we start wrapping things up?
I'm good, thanks.
Nothing's jumping into my head at the moment.
Okay. Well, let's do our usual shout outs. First of all, Manny the Martyr for our awesome music. Thank you guys. Joel, good friend of ours, longtime friend. Appreciate it. Appreciate the shout outs from hashtag Potter and Family on Twitter. A lot of great podcasts out there, and they've been spreading the word of the fellowship, and it's much appreciated. We love you guys. And of course, thank you people for downloading and listening to our humble little show. We do appreciate it, guys. We really do. Please spread the word. If you love the show, please tell others to check it out. We appreciate reviews on whether it's iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play. Just even a thumbs up or ranking of stars or whatever. We appreciate it. And of course, we always like to have feedback. You can always contact us at www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. There's a About Us page that you can send a little message there, or you can send us an email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. We are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. We're also on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Mikey has his own personal page at Mikey Geek, and I have a personal page at Tom TC Geek. Anything else?
Yeah, we love that feedback.
Yeah, definitely.
If you have a, like for example, if you have a favorite retcon or a least favorite retcon, give us a holler. Let us know what it is.
Definitely.
Please do.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, we would like to know, and we always want to hear from y'all guys. So please. Anything else? I think that may be about it, right?
I think that wraps us up.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Once again, gang, thank y'all for listening. We do appreciate it, and we do love you guys. Until next time, read more comics and support your local stores. We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,